Today, we have someone who has an incredible understanding of what it takes to create a strong economy. A man who has spent his entire career fighting for fiscal responsibility, economic liberty, and smarter government. Stephen Moore is the co-founder of the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, co-founder of Rich States, Poor States, and a longtime ally to ALEC. Earlier this year, Steve led a national coalition, the Tax Cut Victory Alliance, to help pass what we proudly call the One Big Beautiful Bill. ALEC was a proud member of that effort. When the campaign began, around 400 ALEC members had signed a letter urging Congress to act. By the time President Trump signed the bill into law on the 4th of July, that number had grown to more than 630. We're proud of the role that ALEC plays and is grateful to every single member who added their name to that letter. Your voice helped make history. Stephen Moore has advised presidents, testified before Congress, and appears regularly on radio and TV as a trusted voice on free markets. I'm going to give you all a chance to stop your conversations, so I'm not competing with you. I know we have a great time talking and networking here, but if you all don't mind, most importantly, Stephen Moore is someone who believes deeply in the role of the states, knowing that America is strongest when the states take the lead. Please join me in welcoming our good friend, Steve Moore.
Well, hello, everybody. It is a great privilege to be with you all again. This is amazing. I don't think I've ever spoken to a larger group of people. Lisa, this is an incredible testament to your, isn't this the greatest leader of ALEC that we've ever had? So thank you for everything you do, Lisa. I'm proud to be a member of the board of ALEC, but this is one of my proudest moments. I mean, my God. Arthur Laffer is my warm-up act. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. And Arthur proves, by the way, that good things do come in small packages. I can say that because he's not here. He was the best man at my wedding, by the way, so I can rib him. Okay, so I'm going to just give you a quick economic lesson for 10, 15 minutes, and there'll be an exam after this, so please pay close attention. I'm going to start with what Pat was talking about a bit, about this big, beautiful bill. I've been in Washington since the early 1980s, so that's a long period of time, 40 years. I've been in the swamp. And I would have to say that this is one of the greatest conservative triumphs in at least 3 decades in Washington. This is a very, very good bill. And there's so much in this bill. I mean, you all know that this is a tax cut. We made the Trump tax cuts permanent, which is hugely important. But there's so much in this bill that you probably aren't aware of because we haven't talked a lot about this. But a lot of these things, Lisa, are things that we've worked on at ALEC, and what I call the hidden gems in the big, beautiful bill. Let me just mention a few of these. One of the projects that ALEC has been critical on, and that we're making huge, huge gains on, of course, is school choice. This bill that Donald Trump just signed into law is the biggest federal expansion of school choice ever in American history, which is an incredible accomplishment. So thank you, Donald Trump. Second of all, another issue that we work on here at ALEC and that you're working on in your states is how to restrain health care costs. It's one of the biggest fiscal economic issues for virtually every state and Washington and American families. This bill is the single biggest expansion of health savings accounts ever. So that's a huge thing. How about the fact that, remember, under Joe Biden, they tried to impose an electric vehicle mandate on Americans that was going to require Americans all over the country to buy an electric vehicle. We eliminated the electric vehicle mandate in this bill. You can buy whatever car you want to. This is America. We got rid of the Green New Deal in this bill. So that's gone, folks. The Green New Deal is dead. I'm trying to remember some of the other things that we did in this bill that were, another issue we worked on, Lisa, is work requirements for welfare. This bill dramatically increases work requirements. We're not going to let people go hungry in this country. We're not going to let them go, homeless. We're not going to let them suffer deprivation. But if you are getting a handout for taxpayers, you have to either be in a job or looking for a job if you're able-bodied, period. And that's very popular with Americans. And incidentally, when we did welfare reform, when Newt Gingrich was Speaker, that was one of the most important pieces of social legislation we ever passed in the 1990s. Every study shows, even the Brookings Institute, which is a liberal think tank in Washington, that we reduced the child and overall poverty rate in the United States after welfare reform by 70%, because the only way out of welfare is a job. So that's an enormous thing too. And of course we did no tax on tips, did no tax on overtime. I could go on, but these are enormous benefits. So now let me kind of show you some charts if I can. That will document kind of what I'm talking about here. You can go to the next chart, please. I'm going to skip that one. Well, hold on, just on that, go back to that one for a second. One of the things that we need to appreciate is over the last 40 years, since the age of Reagan, what you're looking at is a stock market, adjusted for inflation and on a logarithmic scale. That's the green line. What you're looking there is one of the greatest period of wealth creations in the history of civilization. No nation ever has ever seen what we've seen in the United States in terms of the expansion of our economy. The Dow Jones, if you go back to the early 1980s, was at 1,000. Today it's at 45,000. If the Dow Jones does as well over the next 40 years as it did over the last 40 years, we're talking about Dow 1.5 million 40 years from now. So my point is, when we get the economic policies right, as we did under Reagan and as we have done under Trump, really good things come for the economy. I'm super bullish right now, by the way, on the U.S. economy. Now that we've gotten this bill through, I think it's going to be an enormous stimulus. So the next chart I'm going to show you is just that Trump has been really good for stocks. And this was just what happened in his first term. In his second term, despite some of the tariff talks, and I'm with Arthur Laffer, I'm not a big tariff guy, but now that we've got these Trump trade deals done, that's a good story. Inflation, the single reason, biggest reason that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris lost the election was because of runaway inflation. There's no question about that. Americans hate inflation. They despise it, especially my wife. Every night I come home and, you have no idea what things cost in the grocery store. Look at the inflation rate. Go back to that previous one. Look at the inflation rate. The red bars are the inflation rate in Trump's first term. The blue bars are the rates of inflation under Trump. By the way, how many of you, when I used to go on TV during Biden's, I'd say, the inflation rate, official rate, prices are up 21% under Biden. How many of you think the real inflation rate was a lot higher than that? I mean, almost everybody's hand is raised. Because when you look at the things that Americans have to buy, when you're talking about your groceries, your gas bills, your utilities, your tuition payments, and so on, those were up 35 to 40%. And that was an enormous strain on American families. The next chart, if you will. This is something many of you have seen before, but I want to stress it, that when you look, the magic of the free enterprise system is that over time prices fall. As if we have more productivity and companies find ways to reduce prices to become more efficient and productive. And what's so interesting about this chart is look at those two, look at the top, at the very top of the chart, and look at the things that are rising in price. College tuition, medical services, and child care services. What do those all have in common? Government, right? These are the industries that are run by government. When I ask my liberal friends, gee, why do we have the government play such a huge role in education and healthcare? They always say, to make it more affordable. They're doing a great job of it, isn't it? So we have got to get government out of healthcare and education, in my humble opinion. Okay, the next chart, if you will. I'm going to skip that one because I'm running out of time. So this is an important one. Why did we have the runaway inflation under Biden? I think everyone knows in this room why we had the runaway inflation. It's because Biden came in and he spent $4 to $5 trillion on top of the money that Trump had spent on COVID. Oh, and incidentally, let me just say this an aside. I'm almost like Cato, you know. Cato the Elder used to say every speech that he gave, Carthage must be destroyed. So I say this in every single speech. Can we all agree, everyone in this room, especially the lawmakers in this room, can we make a solemn pledge that we will never, 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 never again allow the government to shut down our businesses? Never again should they shut down our schools. Never again should they be able to shut down our hospitals. It was the single greatest abuses of power in American history, and it was absolute failure. We know, by the way, Lisa, from the red states, that we got the red states to open up thanks to ALEC and other groups. Red states opened up. The blue states stayed shut down, and guess what? The red states had lower death rates from COVID than the states that shut down. Lockdowns killed people, and we're never going to allow that to happen again. I had to say that because it's so important. By the way, the left is very eager to shut down the climate change, this or that. They're looking for the best opportunity they can to shut down our economy. We're never going to let that happen again. Okay, the next one. This is pretty critical, folks. This is the most important chart in this presentation. We are all deeply, deeply concerned about our national debt. Everyone in this room is. We have to be, because we're now at $37 trillion in our national debt. We're headed to $40 trillion. And you can see from this chart, that red line is the Congressional Budget Office forecast, and it's very, very frightening. We're headed from 120% of our GDP to 180, 200% of GDP in terms of our debt. That would be an absolute apocalyptic future if we allow that to happen. And that's the standard chart you see, and every time you see a forecast on the debt, that's the line you see. However, you know, there's an old saying, garbage in, garbage out. It depends on what assumptions you're making about the future. And so what we did was we looked at what if we get Trump to because look, the Congressional Budget Office is saying the U.S. economy will grow 1.7% per year for the next 30 years. And to that I say, hell no. This is America. We're not going to grow at 1.7%. We're going to do everything we possibly can in public policy to raise that economic growth rate up to 3%. By the way, 3% is not a moonshot, folks. The average growth rate of the U.S. economy in the last 100 years is 3.2%. So we can do this. We can accomplish that. Now, if you put that chart up again, please, because now look if you put 3% in the model rather than 1.7%, look at what happens to the debt. We bend the curve down. Now, I am not saying we shouldn't cut government spending. There is nobody in this room who wants to cut government spending more than I do. And by the way, I have to say something before I forget, Lisa. I don't know if you have heard the news, but guess what? No more PBS, no more congressional, no more the public broadcasting, and no more USAID. We passed the rescission bill. It is done. It is a great, great accomplishment. It's like one of the first times, Lisa, in my lifetime, they've actually gotten rid of a government program. So I really want to salute Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and I think actually John Thune has done an enormously good job. Look, so my point is, when we talk about policy, anything that increases economic growth, whether it's pro-growth tax cuts, or whether it's deregulating the economy, producing more energy, all the things Trumps want to do, they increase growth and they're going to reduce our debt, not raise it. By the way, if you get 3.5% growth, look at that, the debt goes way down. Growth is everything, okay? The next chart. I have to show you this, folks. It's not on the economy, but if I may, Lisa, this is a very quick story. But I went to see Donald Trump almost exactly 2 years ago. It was July of 2022, and Trump was down. Remember, people forget. In July of 2022, he had 15 indictments against him. Everybody was talking about, you know, all these other candidates, Ron DeSantis and so on, that were going to run for president. And Trump looked like he was dead in the water. He really did. And when I went to see him in Bedminster, he and I just spent about an hour together across the table. It was kind of sad. He was, you know, he was down. And I thought at that point, it's very, very, very unlikely that he could make this comeback. By the way, this is one of the greatest comebacks in the history of politics, that Trump made this incredible comeback. Anyway, we're talking, and I showed him all these charts comparing can you put that chart back up again? If you look at the, Can you get that back up on the screen? This is, I'll wait for a minute till, did it go down or? Okay, here it is. So I showed him all these charts about how much better the economy had performed under Trump than under Biden, in Trump's first term versus Biden. And then the last chart I showed him was this chart about what had happened with illegal immigration, that in his first term there was almost no illegal immigration. Then Biden comes in and the illegal immigration goes through the roof. Well, of all the 25 charts I showed him, this is the one he completely honed in on. Oh my God, this is so great. I got to show this to Susie. I got to show this to, Miller, all the people running the campaign and da-da-da. He was so excited about this. And does anybody know the significance of this chart? Butler, this is the chart that he had on, it's not the exact chart. His policy guys made a new version of this. They put this up on the chart. Trump put it on the screen. He turned his head. The bullet went by his head. Ladies and gentlemen, I saved Donald Trump's life, okay? All right, I'm only kidding, but okay, so next chart. I'm almost done, Lisa, I promise. Go to the next one, please. A little slow. Next one. Do you have the next one? Is that it? Okay. If that is it, let me just then, that's probably a good thing to conclude. No, let me say this. I am super bullish right now. Trump is proving to be the most effective president, I would say even more so than Reagan. And Reagan is my hero. I mean, Reagan belongs on Mount Rushmore for what he did for our country. It's interesting, when Laffer and I go talk to Trump, and we see him about every 6 months, he loves to chat, and he loves to chat with Arthur, and he spends the whole half of those meetings asking Arthur about Ronald Reagan. And the reason he does that is because he's jealous of Reagan, and he wants to go down in history as an even greater president than Ronald Reagan. And by the way, that's a pretty good role model to have, wouldn't you say, to have Ronald Reagan as president? If Trump keeps on this stage, on this path that he has set forward, with the most incredible, his executive orders every single day, I cannot keep up with the amazing things that he is doing. And I don't like his tariffs, but I think we're going to see an economic boom. And folks, we may have to put two new heads on Mount Rushmore, Ronald Reagan and Donald J. Trump. Okay, thank you very much.